Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rob Orrison with the Emerging Civil War with my good friend Steve Phan. Steve just finished a great presentation about the campaign, not just the battle for Stevens, but I think it was more about leading up to the event, the only battle that happened in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to ask Steve to kind of take that 45-minute presentation and condense it down to a couple of snippets here. First thing I'm going to ask you is, of all the events that took place in July 1864, what you find most interesting about this story about the campaign to Fort Stevens?
Well, one of my favorite aspects of it is the decision making from the high command on both sides here. And we'll talk about from the Confederate perspective on the evening of July 11th, when they had been pushed back the first day of battle, when the 6th Corps had arrived on the field. The Federal 6th Corps early realized he was likely out of time. They were hanging out in front of the defenses of Washington and Washington, D.C., and they had to figure out what to do. So him and his officers, or his senior leadership, they're going to hang out at the Blair property in Silver Spring, Maryland. Montgomery Blair was the Postmaster General under Lincoln. They're going to go through his exquisite wine and liquor cabinet.
Nice.
And they're going to kind of make a decision on what's going to happen the next day. There's been accounts saying that he realizes that he really can't do much. I believe he gets a telegram saying that the 19th Army Corps from the Union Army has also arrived on the field. So he's going to make a decision what to do. They're going to drink heavily that evening, and then the next day he says he's going to ride out. He's going to use his field glasses to scan the forts, and he's like, oh, there's way too many troops here. We're not going to fully attack. There's going to be some heavy skirmishing for the rest of the day. And in the midst of his retreat, the Blair property burns down, and Montgomery Blair, as I said, he's the Postmaster General under Lincoln, was not very happy. He started talking and saying that the Army were a bunch of cowards for letting his property burn down. The Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, Henry Halleck, was not very happy with that, and he demanded that Montgomery Blair resign from Lincoln's administration. So a lot of conflict there.
A lot of political conflict.
All around one property. So I think there's
lots of drinks.
Lots of drinks. So.
So, how, in your opinion, I know you work at the Civil War Defenses of Washington,
Yes.
Why is this story about Fort Stevens so important in the overall scheme of the American Civil War?
I think the way you started is really important, because it's not just a battle, it's about campaigns. We're talking about the 64 campaigns in and around Virginia, and you can even say D.C. in many ways, the Shenandoah Valley. And this was just a small portion of it. I know there's one great historian that just calls it one evolution after another. And I think it's important. The Overland Campaign begins in May of '64, and there's a lot of optimism, right? Mm-hmm. And Grant's going to make his way down to Richmond and Petersburg. He'll take obviously very heavy casualties, but the momentum seems to be on the upswing for the Northern cause. And by July, that completely changes. Early's going to cross the Potomac River on July 5th, and within 5 days or so, he's going to be marching against the federal capital. Just to see how much can change in the span of 4 to 5 weeks is pretty dramatic. And so you go from this very high elation for the Northern cause to really, really low. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, it's an election year. Lincoln's up for re-election, and Grant's stalled outside of Richmond and Petersburg. Sherman's kind of several miles, at least dozens and dozens of miles away from Atlanta. So things look like they're stalling on all the fronts. And there's a lot of war weariness goes on, and this is a part of it. Can we imagine what would happen even if Early broke in for a few hours and started sacking buildings and things like that? I think politically this could have been a disaster for Lincoln and his administration.
I agree. Last thing I'm going to ask Steve is share with our viewers how they can find out more about Fort Stevens and the Civil War Defenses of Washington.
Thanks, Rob. My friend Rob did a really good job of kind of hyping what we do over at the Civil War Defenses of Washington. It's really taken off the last couple of years. We've got a wonderful Facebook page. Just look up Civil War Defenses of Washington. You'll see a green National Park Service arrowhead. I'm a ranger for the Park Service. We've got a great website as well, nps.gov/CWDW. We do programs all over the city, all over the region. So come on out and see us, and we hope that you can join us on some future fort programs.
Great. Well, thank you, Steve. And this is Rob from Emerging Civil War at Stevenson Ridge, and we'll catch you at the next video.
See you soon.